Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Magical Misery Tour. I'm Jesse Dram. I totally didn't botch the first take of that, and Neil didn't correct me like a smug fucking headmaster. Our guest this week is Peggy O'Leary. Dear God, this is a fucking big one. We talk about death. A lot of death. A lot of sad death. Fuck. Yeah, just listen to it. You can find her on Instagram at Aunt Peggy O. That is AUNT_Peggy, PEGGYO. And you can find her on Twitter at Peggy O'Leary. And yeah, she has a show with, she's on the Drop 10 Media Network with the Lovable Monsters Podcast with Ryan Foster, another alumni. They also run the Lovable Monsters live stand-up show at Manny Brown's. You can catch that next one November 21st. Did they say no cover?
Yeah, no cover.
No cover. So you got no excuse not to go. What's your fucking issue? Guys, Magical Misery Tour rolls on. Hello and welcome to the Magical Misery Tour, where funny people discuss life's unfunniest things. With me, as always, is my co-host, who you cannot see, James Neal Wood.
Oh, thank you, buddy. It's good to use the full name. That has not happened. Okay.
James Neal Wood, Social Security code 183.
Stop. You're guessing kind of right. That's not funny.
You know what's funny? I only remember my Social Security code because of Blink 182.
Oh, really?
Because it's not 182, but there is a 1 and an 8 and a 2.
I'm glad your mnemonic devices are working. That's so wonderful.
I'm just saying, folks, if you follow the breadcrumbs, we're dropping them.
How are you? How sad are you? How happy are you? What's going on?
I'm actually very happy. I'm very nerdy. Me and my girlfriend are texting each other, and she said that cooking makes her really excited for us to have kids because she knows that's what she wants to do.
Shit.
And I said I'm going to buy her an apron for Mother's Day. Ew. And how cute would it be if we started getting each other Mother's Day and Father's Day gifts
much. I'm sorry
from day one?
We've
been together 4 months.
This is disgusting.
Forever.
Yeah, fucking insane. You guys need to slow down. I'm going to say now, because of what you just said, as we've talked about in this podcast, and before you do it, you need to slow down.
You're going to be
that is getting a little. You're
going to be my best man.
Very nice.
You're going to be my best man and my godfather, Neil.
I like both of you, and this is going to end in tragedy. So just watch it.
If we have 5 kids, you godfather to all of them.
Let's introduce. I think she has some ideas about this.
With us, she is one of the hosts of the Lovable Monsters Podcast, in addition to many other things, which I'm sure we'll get into. Peggy O'Leary, how you doing, Peggy?
I'm good.
Oh, and your mic's not on. Neil fucked up.
I went on 5. I'm sorry.
Oh man, Neil.
Me down.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, everybody. Oh, there she's back.
I'm back.
And you're back.
Instead of chastising my love life,
I know.
Yeah, that was God smiting you.
Yeah. Well, usually I get a little second to make sure
Jesus is on the side of my road.
Just stop.
So that's
yeah.
Inside thoughts. You shouldn't say those out loud. Definitely not on a podcast.
I agree.
You guys are cute, but gross.
Yeah,
I want to throw up.
Very
but then
gross.
again, I'm a monster, so
There you go. A lovable monster. Yes,
on the nose. Forget it.
Yeah.
it's why we call it that, because I call myself a monster all the time.
Nice.
No, that's so cute and / weird. And when you guys break up, you're gonna be really sad.
I've had so much romantic failure leading up to this that, like, when everything's going good and just like firing on all cylinders, it's like a little, you get caught up in it. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. Well,
No, I think that's sweet. I don't.
Peggy's being nice because she doesn't know you as well, I think.
No,
That's fine.
also,
I will say.
Shit on me. Tell me I'll die alone. I know it.
Shitting on you. It sounds.
see, I don't think you're gonna die alone. I think I think it's more of a knock on me. Like right away, I was like cringe. My like blood was boiling while you were saying that, which is like
I have that effect on people.
This is why guys don't want to date me, because guys don't want to hear that the girl's like, "Oh my God, you're such a fucking pussy."
But here's the fucked up thing. She has told me repeatedly throughout this entire relationship that, like, I am never like this with guys. Like, and I've met all her friends and like, yeah, you kind of fucking broke her. I don't know where all this optimism came from.
Right.
So.
Oh, cool. So this is going to be a crash and burn situation.
Yeah. Just because you're putting your eggs all in one basket doesn't mean you're not going to drop it, buddy. It doesn't, you know what I mean? She sounds like, just because it's new and it's weird. I mean, follow the emotions. I feel like you can't do much.
Well, no.
About
what we're doing is we're putting all her eggs into her uterus where my semen will go and make a bunch of babies.
And you're going to try
Do
to
you want to
solidify
have
this?
kids like sooner
He does.
rather
I
than
want
later?
a whole hockey team full of babies. Actually, it is going to have to happen sooner than later, probably a few years, I guess. I would like to be a little bit further along because it's definitely, we were talking before how I wish I was doing a lot better in comedy at this point, and that's definitely, having kids, that's definitely putting the fucking barrel in your mouth and setting the egg timer. So, So I don't know. I mean, I definitely want kids. I'd like them sooner than later. I mean, when my dad,
old are you?
I'm 33.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, I'll be 33 in a week.
Oh, there you go. But it's also when my dad was my age, I was already 10. So I'm very just coming from a very white trash background. It's like I kind of should have been. I said before I met her, I said a few times I feel like I should have been married, had a kid, and been divorced already.
Right.
Oh wow, yeah. Also, here comes another moment where I hit on Peggy. I thought he asked yesterday. I was like, dude, she could be 25. I have no idea how old Peggy is.
You said that on one of the podcasts, actually. Yeah.
I just feel like some people hold it together. I'm just like I couldn't pin it down. So that's me hitting on Peggy as we usually do.
I like it.
There we go.
Nice.
Boom. But yeah, you're right. In terms of parents, I mean,
I'm the youngest
Right.
of 6. My parents, by the time my dad had me, the 6th one, when he was 40. So by the time he was he had all of he had 5 kids by 36. Yeah,
That's a lot.
so
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that is amazing.
my mom had 6 kids by 36.
Okay, so is that they're like an Irish family coming from Catholic?
Yes, very.
Okay.
How long were your parents? Walk this back for me. How long were they together before they had their first kid? Were they gay? Right?
My parents,
Yeah. Were you Peggy?
they met.
Because this will help him.
It was quicker, I will say that. I think they were, because they both had been engaged prior to knowing each other. My dad had got engaged before he went to war, and then he got a Dear John letter. My mom was engaged actually when they met. This is actually so my dad's a funeral director. I grew up in top of a funeral home. And my parents met because my dad opened the car door and my mom fell out on the funeral and he caught her. That's how they met.
Holy shit.
She was currently engaged at the time. He asked about her to her aunts and they were like, oh no, she's engaged. And so when they when her and her fiance broke it off, they were really, her mom and her aunts kind of conspired against her because they thought she was going to get back with him and they didn't want him to get back with that guy. So my aunt called the funeral home that my dad was working at and asked for Tommy and said, do you remember, said her who name is, what the funeral was. It was 6 months ago. And my dad goes, oh, the pretty girl in the red convertible, because she had a red convertible at the time. Damn. And they were like, yeah. And they were like, will you take her out to dinner? So they went out to dinner on a Thursday. My dad literally just straight up called, and she was like, okay. She just kind of. They went.
Did she even remember him from?
She remembered him. Yeah, they called him the friendly funeral director because he was the little guy,
serial killer, or hot, one of the two.
Yeah, the little friendly funeral director, and so she. They went out on a Thursday. My dad had dates Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No, Friday and Saturday. And he, at the end, when he was dropping her off, he was like, I wish I could cancel both Friday and Saturday and just take you out. And he called her the next day and said, do you want to go out Sunday? So he's like, he's still a gentleman. He didn't cancel those dates. But my mom did say, she was like, when he dropped me off, I just kind of knew we were going to get married. So then they got engaged probably in a year. And they got married in 6 months after that.
See, I love hearing stories like that where it's oh, I knew right away I was going to marry this guy.
Right. But you also hear stories like that. I think those people get divorced. And it's
Right. Now, my only question is...
I've also thought I was going to marry a couple people and it didn't work out. So.
My only question is when a funeral director guy gets married, do all the women's family... I'm going... it's going to be a Paul Bear joke. Now. It's going to be a Paul Bear joke. Do they all pick her up by the side and carry her over the threshold?
No,
it was
that's
dumb.
That's
wasn't worth it. Wasn't
that's
worth
the
it.
horror. That's the Jewish think of a chairs. Yeah.
I think so.
And then they do it through a hole in the sheet. Okay, gotcha.
Good, bringing in Mormonism. I like it. That's crazy. So early on, again, you've told Peggy what we do with this podcast, but I think childhood, we've got already kind of a little bit there in terms of being one of.
Well, I also want a little bit of what's it like just growing up the youngest? What was it, 6? You said?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. They treated me like the baby by a while because it was 4 girls, and then they had my brother, and it makes sense they would stop then. And she actually was going to get her tubes tied, and then right before she got it done, she was like, I had a weird pit in my stomach and I didn't feel comfortable with it. And she always is like, that was you in heaven saying you're coming. And then 2 years later, she got pregnant with me. Yeah. And then, so she didn't, they didn't go through it. But, so I was the most, overly stimulated baby because they would like wake me up like the stories of me as a child. It's like I could eat 5 slices of pizza by 2. I never slept because they would just wake me up, and I was just always ready to like dance and have fun. And I could swim before I could walk. Those are the 3 stories.
Oh wow!
And I never cried.
Oh,
they never cried, and so I'm like, well, this is why I'm a depressed adult because that stimulation
Nothing
is
was
crazy.
Gonna keep up with that.
Nothing. I mean, also, you expect me to date one person? I had just like an audience since I was a child, just like dancing and singing for them. So I had a pretty like charmed childhood up until 5th grade, until I was like 5, and then I went to kindergarten, and it all came crashing down when I found out I was the fat kid, and I didn't know it. You know what I mean? Because everybody just adored me, and I was like really good with like adults, and I spent my, I did spend my days watching my mom put makeup on dead bodies, which is probably another reason why I'm a depressed adult. It's a little dark.
So that's a fun thing for take your daughter to work day, I guess.
Yeah.
Go write a report on that.
Yeah. So
She's comfortable with death.
Were other kids freaked out by that? Were they be like, "You live in the death house"?
no, not really, because you know what? Because I was my house was always like Christmas Eve. We always had an open house that people would come to, and like. When they opened the funeral home, they did an open house, like to have everybody like, and they went through the upstairs apartment and stuff. Right. So like, it was kind of, and my mom always like entertained. So actually my house was like the house everybody hung out at.
Okay.
Yeah. And especially because like my neighborhood, like parish, whatever, everybody knew. So it was like, I had also a lot of kids in my grade. Siblings were in my siblings' grade, so like most of them had already like
in this picture.
Okay, so they're
a little more tied in, I think, to the community than normally. Yeah,
it's not like our house is like in a residential area,
right?
So
it's very different. So you didn't get a lot of flack for that, but kindergarten walked in and they were like, "Whoa!"
What was it about being the fat kid? I was the fat kid too for many years. So.
What was it? I mean,
well, she was just it was just striking because she was like, "I didn't know I was the chubby a little chubby."
Right, but was this also comparing yourself to everybody else, or was it the first?
No,
look at the fat girl.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Yeah. And then my mom was overly obsessed with it because she was a chubby kid. So she put me on a diet as an 8. So like I'm all sorts of fucked up from it.
Yeah.
And I probably stayed heavy for a long time because I was fucked up by it. Like had I just like whatever, like if nobody put that much pressure on me, everybody gets bullied. Who cares, kind of thing. But then I was like also at home, like my mom and dad, like you're not allowed to eat that, or like whatever it was.
Right.
So
we're constant needling and not like in a healthy way, or not even. It's not like they intended it not to be in a healthy way, but it can. I was always
very confident though. Like I was like, and that's the other thing that's really funny. My mom would be like, I can't believe you're this confident. Like she said that stuff a lot. Yeah. Where it's like you get older and you're like. Thinking about that, and you're like, these are where my insecurities come from.
There's some jabs in there. You're like, hey, okay.
You see your mom roasting you around the house.
Oh, my whole family's like that. We're a fucking house of girls.
My sister was blown away that I was apparently a little anal retentive. I was like, Chrissy, up until I left this house, you were at every moment criticizing, like, did you wash your ears? She would just pull on me at all times. Pulling, did you wash your ears? What is this? You have like little hair on your chin. What is this? You shaving? I was like, yeah, I'm a little tight. I'm a little tight. Yeah. And she was like, I can't believe it. Yeah. It's you dipshit.
I'm probably going to end up, I don't want to, but I'm almost certainly going to end up fucking my kids up on being fat just because I hated being fucking fat.
Yeah, but just don't do that.
Yeah.
It'll backfire. Trust me.
I mean, that's why I hope it works out with this girl because she's also vegan, so it would be kind of hard for the kids to be fat. And if I'm entirely honest, it'd be kind of hard for her to get fat too.
But also,
that's not true. I've seen fat vegans.
That's very possible.
True. Yeah.
All you have to do, buddy, is just don't do the late night eating. That's the only bad habit I think you have.
No.
Food.
We're not talking all the way back. All the way back with my weight thing. It wasn't always night eating. It was that my fucking mom and dad didn't know anything about nutrition, and my dad thought like a half-pound cheeseburger with a thick slice of Velveeta on it. Right. Perfect for a 6-year-old.
I gotcha.
Yeah, my family fed a 2-year-old 5 slices of pizza.
There you go.
That is fucking.
Look at her go.
That is child abuse.
She's going for 6.
Like I just keep picturing the kid crawling.
I would eat anything. They like loved it. They think it's so funny. And now, I guess for breakfast. So like now I eat very slowly, and they're always just like, "What is it taking you so long?"
Sure. She's like trying to crawl, but none of her appendages are reaching the floor.
I know. I'm like, this is why I swam before I walked, Mom, because gravity didn't affect me. Okay, I wanted to be active, but you didn't allow it. No, but
gosh.
Okay. I could dance and I could swim before I could walk.
And confident is something in there that throws me through a loop because I was chubby amongst like you guys. I did not come into the grades like confident chubby.
Yeah.
I did not come in like, but you didn't know. That's the difference. I don't think up until that point you didn't know if you.
I also had this like I was a very like determined little kid. Like I thought I was going to be a child actress. Like I thought I was going to be like a like I had all these like
You're vivacious.
very intense thoughts that like I remember. This is such a weird thought. I remember thinking I wanted to look like this other girl who was in my class who I thought was like the most beautiful girl, but I didn't want her brain. I remember thinking that. I was like, I obviously don't want to fucking be her. She is fucking basic white bitch.
Empty
but
nest upstairs.
Definitely want to be hot. You know what I mean? So I've kind of always been that. So I think that was the thing. I also am I was a fun kid and I had like a lot of the parties and my siblings were fun. And so I was always confident in that also, when you're in a small grade school where you have 35 kids from kindergarten through 8th grade, eventually it's just like, I remember going into 6th grade being like, you're just going to fucking be yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck this. You are going to be famous one day.
See, the difference, I really wish. The difference between...
Cut to 33 and I am the opposite of famous.
Wow.
No, I mean, trust me, we'll show you unfamous. But I think the difference there is that you stayed in the same school. I had a very similar experience where I went to Catholic school all the time, but I was always, every 3 years,
new school.
I was out. So I was always fucked. It was always just never got comfortable. Ever.
Did you play a sport or anything?
I did. I played multiples. I mean, the earliest was soccer, and then before you know it came to like basketball and all that. I played football 7th and 8th. I played lacrosse in high school. All the stuff.
See, I think the other thing
Baseball
was I was obsessed with cheerleading. My sister, I was the mascot when we call mascots. It's like little girls who you know. And so I was the mascot for my sisters. And by the time I was going to be in kindergarten, I was as tall as one of the 8th graders. And my mom was like, you can't be a mascot anymore. And also, like, at one point, the coaches used to always be like, if Peggy can do it better than you, you guys aren't practicing. And my mom was like, you know what, we can't like show up these 13-year-olds with a fucking 5-year-old. So I started competitive cheerleading in 1st grade.
Yeah.
So like by the time I was like when I was like 6, I was in a competitive cheerleading team squad. So it's like that gave built-in confidence because you're like on a team and it's like cutthroat like cheerleaders. So you have to be a little
edgy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I cried a lot. My mom used to always be like, I can't believe, why are you torturing yourself? I'm like, because I love cheerleading. Like, I just like loved it so much. Yeah. So by the time I was like in 4th grade, I was like the captain. So it was like, I had all that other confidence, you know, because I was really good at stunting.
There you go. Well, you're very determined, and I think just having a big family, the fact that you like have a squad behind you every time you go home, I think that definitely helps a lot. Like totally. I know I was the oldest. Neil, his sisters were like much older than him, so I feel like that made us a little more.
But no, I mean I was the baby. Yeah, but I was the baby by a lot. I think it was more of that my sisters. They were just obsessed with me. So like,
so
I always
Neil's sisters are just terrible then. No, so that's
I think to listen to everybody. Please don't do this. No, I think it was, but they also had a lot going on. So, my older sister had her kids when she had my nephew when she was 15. So it wasn't like, and then the middle kid, they're always I will diss my sister in the middle. Yeah. She's, they're always weird. So it's always a problem. But but sorry, Peggy, I cut you off. Yeah,
I think I also just was gonna always be that confident of a person. I just said.
Were you the performing kid? Were you the performing baby? Did you perform a lot for your family? That's what I thought. I thought you were. Yeah,
they still, if you were to hang out with me and my sisters, they'll still pimp me out. Like they'll be like, let's make this bar into a karaoke bar. I'm like, you can't do that. And they're like, yeah, you can, go do it. Like they still make me do like dances. I mean, we're like a dancing family. Like for when all my sisters got married, we all like did performances for them. And then like when my brother got married, like all the nieces and nephews did it too. Because we're like now like, all right, we're all too old for this. Right. But when we were younger, like people like that was like people were like, I love O'Leary's weddings because it's like, oh, you're gonna see the dance, and it's like it was like a show.
No, I do love the fucking performance families like that, so where they were. Oh God! Still, I'll try to make this quick. This is still one of my favorite family stories. My grandmother's 80th birthday, so like the whole family's there. We rent out a hall. They force my one little cousin to do. She was taking like Irish step dance lessons, so they make her go out and perform for everybody, etc. I have another cousin who has Down syndrome. And he frequently, his like fidget thing is he has a pair of knotted socks he always has, and he just wings around.
I love that.
So I'm watching this Irish folk dance, and my uncle leans into my ear and says, next we're going to send up Richie with his nunchuck routine. And it might have been the first like, oh my God, that is fucking horrible. And I love that laugh ever. So
that's really fun.
Good old cousin Richie. All right, well, I think we had enough on. Oh.
Well, I'm wondering going to the next thing is because I've had the privilege of hanging out with Peggy just a little bit more, just because I'm on the crossover there. Peggy, you talked about crying and stuff like that, but like, is there music or something or a movie especially that like if you watch you will weep? I mean, is that how you're activated in that way?
Yeah, I mean, he did tell me a little bit. He said the song, and it's so funny. It's like I have a couple songs that I will put on that like a Joni Mitchell song, like both sides now, but the one rendition I like more. But this is like so specific and weird to now. Okay, you know who Ben Platt is?
Yes,
I know.
Oh, so that's, he's like Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah,
right?
Dear Evan Hansen, which I fucking love. I mean, a lot of those songs can make me cry. But he's on that new show, Politician.
Okay,
and he it's like a closeted gay guy, and like the guy that he is. Who he was like having a secret relationship was River, and so he at the funeral, and the guy dies at his funeral. He sings "River" by Joni Mitchell. You know that Christmas song.
Yeah,
I sobbed, and then when I like will put it on. I will listen to. I've listened to it on repeat like 15 times, so much that my brother came in and was like, "Are you still listening to this motherfucking song?" And I'm like, "It's so good," and he's like singing with all this passion because he's like at the funeral, like singing, and also it's so tongue in cheek, like it's so on the nose that he sings "River" to it, like I don't know, but so like that song can really make me just weep it out. But yeah, no, there's a lot of like, my sister. We went through like this tragedy. Like at one point, my sister always claims that Whitney Houston, Beyonce, and Mariah Carey are her therapists, and like so there is just like I have an album on repeat that I can listen to and just cry. And the song "For Good" from Wicked, which was also was the song of my one niece who passed away. Like that was on the back of her prayer card, so I can listen to that song, and it's just a really beautiful song because it's like about. Yeah, people, whatever. So those two songs are. But yeah, I'm like a total like music, like musicals. Like I'm the person who's like sitting there sobbing.
Musicals bring me to fucking tears.
Everything. Like I could think about like a scene, or like Sunday in the Park with George is one of my favorite. Nobody knows this musical, but I can listen to Bernadette Peters and like just one like note from her would make me cry. Jeez. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, I'm a big movies wise though. Yeah, My Girl was the movie of my fucking childhood. Gotcha. It's like can't see without his glasses. I mean that scene is. Yeah. I mean I have chills right now.
Yeah. It'll break you up. It'll get you there.
Yeah. So
that's fair. Yeah, we've talked about you being vulnerable or not vulnerable. I would say that unfortunately people have either made you cry or you've been in situations where you have cried as a result of that. Like. I don't know. Could you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about Lovable Monsters because Ryan and I became fast friends, and then like I quickly was just crying in front of him about stuff. And he has sisters, so like it's funny because like of anybody I think in the world, no one thinks Ryan Foster is going to be like the most sensitive, empathetic, but he is like. And so there's like so many nights where I'm just and he'll be like, no more crying. Okay, we're not gonna cry. We can't cry. And so, but I've gotten to the point where like I've made him like like he won't tell me why. They'll just become a moment where I'm like, are you? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, I just like activated some memory he had or something.
I wouldn't have imagined you two as sob sisters, but now that you mention it, like I can see that.
Yeah, I think when you like people, I think people just assume when it's like opposite sex that you're fucking, but it's like our relationship is just so much more like weirdly like brother sister like.
Jesse, you and I have like been on a wrestling thing, whatever that one wrestling thing. I'm sorry, but I mean that's why when you say that you're like, I don't surprise you. I'm like, what are you talking about? We watched that one wrestling thing with who was it? Rhodes? Yeah, was it? It had something to do with Rhodes. And we watched that one speech or whatever they gave. Bro, we were both sitting there. You said you were. I was like, oh shit. Stop it. I was like, turn this off, dude. I'm tearing up right now. It broke me up.
Well, yeah, but you and I are weirdos, and they seem a bit more like socially.
No, I don't like them. That's because their parties doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
They get up, but yeah.
Actually, was it here? No, I was on my way to the live episode. It was like after I came back from LA, the live like Lovable Monsters comedy show. Right. On the way there, I was listening to Monica Lewinsky on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert, and she is talking about like having like her past, like being like, you know, struggling with her weight and struggling with the idea of being like, you know, seen as like this slut and a dummy. And I just started tearing up and I was like, Woo, mama's not doing well. If a Monica Lewinsky podcast can really well you up, you know what I mean? But I was like, God, we have so much alike. We're both fat, dumb whores that fell in love with the wrong guy.
Just think, if you really applied yourself, you could have pulled off the same thing as she did.
Listen, if I could actually indulge on the famous dick I've sucked, you'd be surprised. Not presidential, but they get.
If you could blow any president of the last ever.
Ever? Ooh, I mean, you gotta say Obama, right? But then I feel like I don't want to disrespect Michelle. So if Michelle died, I would do it.
Just assume the first lady's down with it.
Okay, she's down with it.
She's down with it. She wants to watch. She gets a kick out of it.
So and then I guess you obviously got to do Kennedy, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm also like a big Marilyn Monroe girl, so I'm
course.
like, fuck yeah.
Also Catholic, Irish.
Yeah, Irish Catholic.
I would have just said McKinley, but that's just because I respect the man.
Yeah. I know. I wasn't like, should I say Lincoln? But we're pretty sure he's homosexual, so it's like he wouldn't even want me.
Yeah.
Bless his heart. Good question. So I mean, there's some tragedy that we usually talk about on this. I know you mentioned your niece, and I don't know if you don't want to go into it too much.
I've talked about it publicly. Because it was pretty public. My niece drowned in a public pool. What was a private public pool? The Saturday Memorial Day weekend in 2011.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I was actually in Austin, Texas with my sketch group Bleak, and I just jumped off a bridge into water. So like probably at the moment she was dying, which is a very weird thing to think about.
Wow. A weird coincidence.
So I was on my way to the hotel we were staying at was like right across the street. There was like a gas station. So we were going in the gas station to get beer. And I got a text. And at the time my dad was really sick, like had just gotten diagnosed bipolar, and he was like kind of on the like low end at the time. So I got a text from a random person that just said, sorry for your loss, which is a fucked up thing to say. I have forgiven that person, but it took a long time for me to forgive her because obviously at no point is sorry for your loss like an okay thing to say to anyone, let alone like within the hour of someone dying that tragically. Yeah. So I don't know who's died. All I know is that someone has died. So I call my mom. She doesn't answer. I call my dad. He doesn't answer. And I call my oldest sister, Megan, and she is like, answer the phone like. And I just remember, it's so weird, like when those things happen where you're like, God, movies did get it right. Like it felt like that, where like, what do they call it? Where like you rack focus, but you also pull away. So it has that like where you simultaneously getting close and far away. Like I could feel it, like the like noise in my head got louder.
You literally feel like the world just like gave out under your feet. You get that big like adrenaline.
And I'm standing outside a gas station soaking wet from just being in like a river. And I have a fucking 12-pack in my hand. And Megan answers and she's like, hi, Peg. Like this high pitchy, over the top.
Covering.
And I'm like, who the fuck did I lose? Who did I lose? Who did I lose? What happened? And she's like, when's your show? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck did it? She's like, when's your show? This
went from a Lifetime movie to a David Lynch movie.
So what happened was they knew we were in Austin for this festival. So in their mind,
they were trying to hide it from you.
Well, they weren't trying to hide it. They thought that my show wasn't until that night. So their plan was we're going to reach out to everyone we can. They were going to reach out to this girl, Jane, who managed us, and they were going to reach out to her, organize it so that I would basically get off stage and go on a plane or something. Right. But obviously this person out of nowhere, and it was 4 o'clock. I got the text at 4 o'clock my time, which would have been 5 o'clock. So it was like almost 45. Like wasn't even. And Joni hadn't been dead for an hour. So she's like, Joni drowned in a pool, but I have an Aunt Joni, and we're not pool people. We go to the shore. Right. So I'm like all sorts of confused. Like, why was Aunt Joni at a fucking pool? And then she's like, no, baby Joni, and I'm like. No, like we're not pool people. Like, and the truth is, it's like we're not. But that summer, my sister was really stressed with work, and so she was like, you know what, we're gonna. And this pool actually it takes like years to get in. So they were like, okay, the kids are like 3 and 1. We're gonna sign up for this pool. Maybe we'll get into it in like 2 years. It's like the pool that everyone that the grade school they're gonna go to. And just somebody knew them was on the board, and they were like, hey, this is a young family. They'll be with us for a long time. Like, let's give them. Someone decided not to sign up, so they found out on Thursday that they got into the pool of that weekend. They put a down payment on it, and they went to the pool on Saturday, and and she drowned. And so yeah, it was so obviously it was like terrible, and I was fucking in Austin, so I just like I don't really remember. I fell to the floor, like got me to the hotel. We went and drank like margaritas, and I probably had a pitcher of margaritas by myself. And then I woke up the next morning and I got on a plane. And then I never went back to New York because I just was like, I'm the only one who can do this. So I just stayed home and I lived with Katie and Tess and like took care of care of Katie's, like it was like half her driver, assistant, whatever. And then we eventually moved to the shore because she didn't want to be around anybody, and like she rented a house not far from my parents' house. Oh, wow. So I stayed at my parent, so it was like, so yeah, it was probably the most intense summer of my life. And that was Memorial Day weekend. And then Katie got pregnant, thankfully, in July. And that was like, that's I think what saved her life, is because you basically have to start taking care of yourself. Because like the one rule was like, she's like very adamant about the way she eats. I was the only one who would be able to feed her. I fed her the same things every day. Like at 12 o'clock, she got a Coke, and then she would have either like a little McDonald's burger or like a little meatball parm, like just very specific things. But she wouldn't eat them. And we were smoking and drinking. Like, I mean, we would go to bed at 4 and she would wake me up at 6 every morning, like reenacting the scene for me. That's what she did all summer long, was just reenact the scene for me. Which, well, I mean, it's a
what
fun
else
one.
do you do? Yeah.
None of us knew what to do. And like
drowning, I think for the especially of young kids is like one of those things where you start to like think of every second of like where in an event like that, because it's so hapless. There's nothing you can do.
18 seconds you can die.
Yeah. It's insane. So I could understand if you were racking.
And she was
brain.
in the baby pool, and she was on the steps, and then she would walk over to the medium pool, and basically like Dan is like, someone asked me a question. I looked at him. And when they eventually stories came out, like he met that guy, and like, but in his mind, he's like, that guy was the devil. Like, why was he asking me a question at that moment?
Sure. Oh,
why did I not see her walk over here? Yeah. And the other thing is, like, we don't know what happened. Did she walk to the steps, and maybe it was overcrowded because it was Adult Swim. Right. So it was like, did a ball go flying past her head, and did somebody knock her? Like, nobody knows what happened. Right. You know what I mean? And it was seconds. There was like a nurse and a doctor sitting right next to Dan. So Dan pulled her out, and they started working on her right away. And like, actually, I never knew this, but Dan was just saying, he's like, I thought at least we would go to I would know. And like, but Katie knew.
Oh, wow.
Right away.
Okay.
She heard Dan scream Katie. She gave Tess, my niece, to our friend Loretta, and she went over there, and she was like, she just knew.
Wow.
She just fucking like, she hoped not, but like, she's a funeral director, and so she's like, I just knew that they were, that she was dead on arrival. So like, I mean, it's a horror movie. It's like there's like no other way you can think of it like that. And and everybody, like, it was packed Memorial Day weekend. Like the pool was crowded. You know what I mean? Like, all of those people saw it. So it's like, it was pretty traumatic, I think, for a lot of people.
Of course.
And actually, sidebar, really crazy. Someone from the Inquirer wrote like a really scathing, bad, like, opinion piece on. Because it was like, it became like then it became like a whole thing about like how many drownings had happened in a year, and like everything under the article, people were just like, what were the parents on their iPhone? I can't believe kids would let them out of your sight. Like, people have no idea. So this guy writes this pretty like rude, horrible Inquirer piece about it, and like I don't even know if they're named, or I don't know what it is, but I mean, we were like, some of us read it. I couldn't get through it.
I hope the story ends with your dad punching him in the nose.
No, what happened was he retracted it the week later, because that weekend he lost his kid on the beach for 3 hours.
Shit.
The kid wandered, same age, 4-year-old, and so he was like, he wrote like, he's like, I looked away, and she was, and thankfully she, lifeguards found her, and but like, so it's like, you never know, you know what I mean? I mean, like, obviously,
rarely see a rebuttal by the same author to himself.
Well, and that's like his whole thing was like, it was almost like a sign from God of being like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, I was lost all the time as a kid, and that's why my mom was like, it was actually a really funny moment. We were all sitting there crying, and she's just like, she starts crying. We're like, what's wrong? Like, we're like something happened. She's like, I don't know how any of you guys live. Like, you're like, how the, I mean, you just don't think like that. But then the crazy thing is, so she got pregnant that summer, had Lizzie March. And Lizzie died at daycare, the first day of daycare. 5 months later, the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Allergy? What happened?
They died. They don't know. They thought for a little bit that maybe they both had a heart condition because you can.
Okay, so it's like that first like real stress, and it just like pops.
Yes, actually, most babies that die of SIDS, it's like they've realized that like 80% of the like are probably heart conditions that you're unaware of, and you can drown like that. Same thing because it's the same kind of stress, and people don't know you have it. But we've all been like everybody's been checked. He's one of 6. Nobody else has it. It's like a rare heart condition. So it could be that, not that. It was the first time Lizzie was ever fully laying down. She always kind of slept a little bit, but first day of daycare.
Holy shit.
Fucking crazy.
Wow.
So both freak accidents, like
freak occurrences. That's insane.
not connected, but are connected maybe, And then,
I mean, do you think that I hope this doesn't come up the way I think, but I mean, as even you guys must be the best family to be able to deal with this type of thing. You see tragedy all the time in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that you should deal with it anyway. I don't think anyone knows
It's
how to deal
terrible
with
for
that.
whoever has to go through it, but I mean, if anybody could absorb the
for you
blow,
guys to be
I
like-
guess it would be you guys. Maybe
for
just being.
funeral
I don't.
directors, I don't know.
That's a guess.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think there's any way, but
I will say that both my dad and my brother-in-law's father both were like, this was one of the worst.
Yeah.
And they're both funeral directors.
Especially when it
sure.
happens like a second time, it's like we're fucking cursed. The family's
Yeah,
cursed.
like what it, yeah. Yeah. But, and like, it's one thing that like I have 5 siblings and, you hear 2 nieces. You're like, not that you hope, but at least it's 2 different parents. Like, but it's fucking, so yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's twofold. Like maybe, people don't get the help that they need because they think they're equipped for it. Or maybe, you think you can, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, for me, it feels like a surreal time in my life. It was such a weird time in my life those few years.
do you feel like you've compartmentalized that time? Does that feel like it feels different than you are
it feels
now?
different. And I think about mostly because I feel like I had such a charmed life up until that point. And I think about my nieces and nephews, like their cousins. Like I don't know what that's like to be fucking 10 and lose your baby cousin. You know what I mean? And like my one niece is 20. So it was 8 years ago. She was, 12.
Yeah.
So like the older ones all remember, like, you know what I mean? And so and my one niece is 2 weeks apart from Joni. So like she remembers, and you shouldn't have memories of being 3, but it was such a paramount thing in her life that she, I think it completely changed, or maybe it brought it out would be sooner. Like, she has a lot of anxiety and stuff. And honestly, wouldn't you if you like your earliest memories or of the person that you thought was your best friend is died in.
Absolutely, of course.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know.
No,
Wow.
I think that's that kind of trauma and stuff like that. I'm not surprised if she remembers, even at such a young age. I'm not surprised. I mean, that's very traumatic.
Yeah, even like Tess, who is the little sister and then the older sister. So I don't think she remembers, but she said so much. Like she would be like, so her birthday's in December, right? So March, Lizzie's born. She dies in September. We're planning her birthday in December, and she looks at her mom and says, like, we can't have a party without Lizzie. Is she going to come back? Like, so it's like those kinds of things are just like, it's like a horror movie. Like you don't know what else. You don't know. And who's equipped to.
Especially being that little. Like I remember after my dad died, as like I was 22, but like a grown man. Like you still like. You'll have those periods where like, but he'll like show up again. Like just that stupid part of your brain just wanders off for a second.
Yeah.
And to be that little and not, you still don't really have the paradigms of reality built really.
Right.
So you're like, this sucks. When is she coming back? That's a little.
Yeah, and then the 2 little ones that, then Mary and Nancy came along and like, so they'll just have these like phantom angels that we talk about. You know what I mean? That they don't even have any sort of concept of. Like, and I've thought of that, like, I'm like, what is that world that you live in where, you're just completely, there's these 2 people I never met who I was, I don't know.
Right. They're just kind of looming over your entire life.
Right. Like, have you ever heard that song Unknown Brother by Black Keys?
No.
Well, like one of the lyrics is like, my mother's pain, and it's about how his wife had an older brother that died, and they were really young. So the whole song is like about how it's like unknown brother is like. They never met.
No, I never met you, and we spoke not a word. I'll never forget you through the stories I've heard. For you, unknown brother, my baby's mother pained because your soul's in heaven, but your memory. That's fucking heavy.
Very,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to know a good sad song, come to O'Leary right here.
Okay.
I love a good sad song.
All right. Well, you know what? For a nice segue on the lighter side, it does involve children. It does involve death. However, these children are murdering rock and roll.
Okay.
Rock and roll is dead. It died with this video. The band is called Extreme Power. That is X-Treme Power. And this song is Obey Authority. Let's get this little jam going.
Yeah.
Will this get pulled? Because
there's no way.
So we found that popular things get pulled.
But not okay.
But yeah. Yeah. So you might not see this on their screen.
It's respect and obey authority.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
So
exactly.
they will hear it.
Punk rock.
I'm not
going
to waste
the
time. I'm not going to waste the time to add the display, buddy. Because
all right, that's fine. That's fine.
So
This will be audio only.
It's already amazing.
I didn't know it.
So
Are they like in a gymnasium? Also,
that's a parking lot.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, respect, authority, O-B-E-Y.
ooh, look at the bad boy in the back.
Obey, authority, come on,
You know,
come on.
Jamie is the bad boy of this band. We all know there was that time he stole a cookie.
Obey, authority, come on, come on.
this is jarring, buddy.
This is upsetting.
He's not even a good singer. No offense. I know. I feel bad for saying that. It's like we don't even get like one of them having like a rock and roll. Also, what is she wearing? Like athletic goggles for like a soccer.
I don't know if they're those or they're the old white goggles.
Well, actually, those might be like the era of like Seth Green can't hardly wait.
Yeah.
A lot of the winners would wear
So
them.
these kids are our age. They're like in the girls now, right?
Probably now. Yeah. Well, actually, no. They're playing on Rock Band. So it's at least, maybe they're a little younger.
They're wearing, oh my God, that's even worse.
This came out in 2011.
Whoa.
But it's just, I mean,
Look at that. It has 6,000 like down. Thumbs down and
wow. That's a lot. 40,000 views. I just
also I like to see the shadow of a parent.
They say.
Oh, this is like parent porn. This is like, man, like our children are good children. They respect us and obey us. We're seeing cuts in between them in the class, and the teachers are just closed arm walking around.
I want to know, like, what the parents' upbringing is. That at any point, oh my God, look at this asshole. What was he doing?
Changing the trash.
I like how the woman has like a neon. Oh my God.
Batman, all of this is his fault. Like, what was his upbringing that he ever
That guy is the devil. That is a terrifying.
There is not a trace of awareness in this of like, yeah, make a rock and roll song about it's your turn to take out the trash.
Yeah. I don't like this guy. I don't like
Yeah.
this guy at all. Is there more of this that gets crazier? Is this get? Or is it just,
I mean, there might be a ripping solo. I don't know if you can handle
They're going to
it.
go into a terrible bridge. Is what's going to happen.
Nah, we're done. We're done. That's fine.
That is.
Upsetting.
Thank you for trolling the internet, buddy. Just finding.
Yeah,
the
how'd
most,
you find that?
I don't remember.
What kind of trail?
I was looking for child performers as always, and this just, I mean, sometimes you find a fucking gem.
I mean,
you know?
honestly, I hope that your podcast gets these guys about 5,000 more thumbs
Yes.
down.
I'm just saying, you look around every now and again, you find a Michael and a sea of Tito's.
So in these last little minutes we got just before we usually get into death, and I'm very interested in.
I think we got enough into death.
Well, no, I wanted to. Oh, the only question. That
Well, yeah,
matters
no,
after
I'm
this
fine
is
with
just,
the,
Peggy, I mean,
scatological.
I think I've asked you this maybe on that, but we don't really talk about it. But in terms of your Catholicism, like, do you believe that we go to heaven? Are you still holding on to that heaven thing? You know, or do you think it's a little something different than that?
So I will say this. I believed in Santa Claus till I was too old.
Okay.
And, people are like, you're so gullible. And I am. There's a lot of gullible naivety. Yeah, to me.
My girl's already saying she doesn't want to do Santa with her kids, and I'm saying, fuck you.
Well, here's my thing is like, I was devastated when I found out Santa Claus wasn't real. Not because it's, I still have, so it's like, I was being lied to for so long. But then I think about it, I'm like, I got 12 years of believing in a magical being, and the rest of my friends didn't. And so I'm like, the facts are that we probably die and it's over and there is no God. Probably that's closer to the truth, but isn't it more glass half full to think that there is a rhyme and reason to all the chaos and bullshit, and maybe not a
True
heaven?
Peggy fashion, dude. Going to beers.
Yeah.
Glass half full as usual.
Glass half full, top it off.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? Top it off.
There it is.
You gotta like, do I believe that I'm gonna go up there? Should be a guy on the fucking throne being like, yo, here's a course light for you, Peg. No, but I do
What's up,
think,
Yahweh? Thank you.
yeah. But I do think that it is a level of reincarnation of it, kind of, and like life on Earth maybe is becomes some people's heavens, and sometimes we're living in an own hell. I do have some feeling of that because I have weird deja vu and dreams that I was alive at a different time period.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can understand that.
But again, I think it's a hopeful thing because to me, to think like dead, gone, you're in the ground and that's it.
Too final.
It's too final and it's too, that's overwhelming to me. Like actually in like the last podcast, Ryan was saying how Ryan Foster was saying he doesn't care for space. And I feel like it's like, I don't even think about it because to me, it feels chaotically overwhelming to think about it.
Yes.
Like, I don't think we're the only ones in the universe.
Right.
Definitely not. Like, I definitely think there's other beings or whatever. And maybe that's what it is. Like, I love Con Air. Like, I love that concept of like, maybe it's fucking, we go into space or whatever the bullshit is. Like, so I hope that there is life after. I don't think it's as
perfect.
Well, I don't think anybody knows.
No, of course.
And I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so-
kind of like what
That's
the
wonderful.
Tower of Babel's like whole idea is, right? Is like don't get too close to heaven because it's like we're not supposed to know all the answers.
Right.
There's like an element of, you should be good for the sake of being good, not because you get a reward. That's a very human.
Yes.
That's to me a very man way of looking at life. Like,
Right,
well,
right.
if I'm nice to my woman, she'll give me a dick sucking later. You know what I mean? So I think
Are you
it's-
reading my blog?
I think that's a beautiful place to leave it. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
wonderful. Peggy, would you like to plug? This comes out on Thursday. This
This will be next Thursday.
next Thursday.
Yeah.
So, if you'd like to plug your
So
shows.
next Thursday is the day before my birthday. So if you follow me on social media, fucking slip in my DMs a little happy birthday. You can follow me on Instagram @_Peggy O. Lovable Monsters. If you don't listen to it, listen to our pod. We all share the same network. And Peggy O'Leary on Twitter.
Nice. And how about for you, Jesse, taking us on that pod?
Just find me at Jesse Dram at Magic Misery Tour. I'll be at John and Peter's December 26th, and I'm trying to book other stuff until then with some very shady people who post randomly online. And I say, hey, I'll do it.
Great.
And then they're unimpressed and don't get back to me. Neil?
No, I'm good. I'm solid. I think I've done enough. Of course, I'll be in Manny Brown's November 21st. They have a great show.
Yes.
Peggy and Ryan will have that, and you should always go to that. It's a goodie. Other than that, people, this has been a podcast, and we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, thank you for coming back.
Bye.
That was great.
Yeah.
Later.
Later.
Obey authority.
I'll make you hurt, baby.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.